Welcome to the June 20th, 2018 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. This evening, we entered executive session at 5:41 p.m. to discuss employment history and discipline of employee 06202018. It was made motion number 15.18, motion made by Member Christou, seconded by Mr. Signor, all voting in favor to enter executive session. We had an attorney present with us, Scott Canal from Gervin and Ferlazzo. We then exited executive session at approximately 6:25 p.m. with a motion by Mr. Guidarelli, seconded by Mr. Christou, all in favor of exiting executive session at that time. We then discussed our agenda, and during the agenda meeting, we motioned 16.18. Tabling resolutions for this evening of 192.18 and 193.18, with a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller-Herrera, and all voting in favor to table those two resolutions. And then we exited agenda meeting at approximately 7:11 p.m. So, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Present.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
Present.
Mr. Signor?
Present.
Mr. Thomason?
Present.
5 present.
Would you all please stand for the pledge? Steve, you want to lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So at this point of the meeting, we will have our public comment privilege of the floor and ask those members of the public wishing to address the board who have already signed in to come to the podium and state their name and address for the record. And please direct your comments or questions to me. And during this time, you'll have 4 minutes to address the board. And I'll time you. Frankly, I'm compassionate. Yeah, I've got this. We'll go with both. But I'll also, because just in case your sand doesn't run out in time for the next person, Diane, that's all. And what I'll do is I'll raise my hand when you get to about 3 minutes, just so you have an idea that your time is getting close. And I'll put my hand up again when the time is up, okay? So, Ms. Marco, who do we have?
Melvin Mintz?
Mr. Mintz?
Thank you. Melvin Mintz, 2273 Hildeberg Avenue. I thank you again for, I hope, tolerating me once again, speaking before you on the same issue concerning the Whispering Pines. I took the liberty of placing before you 3 different articles that I cut out of the paper, and if you wish, you can use the back for scrap paper, whatever you want to do. But one was the letter written, which is self-explanatory in the Gazette. The other one, you might wonder why the heck I gave you that. There are all these companies that do building of homes and things, and maybe down the road, maybe we can invite them to come to the town of Rotterdam and take a look at building single homes. And the third article, it just substantiates something that I brought up at the last time I spoke. One of the issues were that a lot of the area developments that are 2 and 3 floors high are having problems to a degree of fulfilling them as originally planned. And that goes along with one of the developments along Hildeberg Avenue that was done a number of years ago, and the intent was for senior citizens, 55 and over, and since has changed, had to change. And one of the things that I'm concerned with is even if you did approve the Whispering Pine project as presented the last time, that change would have to come about in time because they can't fulfill their what their commitment was to renting and leasing or whatever the project. I am still opposed to the project in its present form with approximately 480 units of some type, whether there are a few single-family homes or 2 or 3 story buildings and the concept yet. I don't mean to cast too much despair on this issue, but on this project, but the fact is that they'll liable to come to you, or might not have to come to you 6 months or a year from now and put in 2 or 3 little restaurants or the swimming pool open to the public in the middle of a highly residential area. I feel it's one of the nicest residential areas in all of Rotterdam. The Colonial Manor, with the 11 roads leading into Helderberg, with all the housing that's gone down on County Line, etc. I did bring up the water concern pressure problem. We are having our problems in Rotterdam with water problems, and I think there's 4 issues that you've been dealing with, and I appreciate everything you're doing. I'd like to ask you to please take a hard look at this before you even consider maybe approving this. One last thing. I did mention the last time, I'm very discouraged with the planning department in bouncing either this down to you or up to you, however you like to look at yourselves. But to send something down commercial in the town of Rotterdam, in a residential area, for you 5 have to decide and take the blunt of our talking to you and picking on you. I feel the planning department has done a disservice to you all. And I appreciate if you next time take a hard look and not be afraid to bounce it up before it comes before the public here at this forum. And I'd like you to remember that the rental market is going to look softer, because right on Curry Road, you know, the new buildings, they're going to be building another set of buildings that they've already built, which is, I don't know how much they've rented so far, but I'd like you to check that out to see if they really filled before you even approve this project in any form. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mintz.
Eric Hess.
Eric Hess, 1071 Floral Avenue. I'm here tonight representing Young Families, Young Parents United. Young Parents United is a nonprofit organization which has recently opened a Schenectady County location for support of teen parents. Young Parents United's mission is to invest in the future of families and promote positive change among adolescent parents through inspiration, empowerment, education, support, and practical tools in order to break destructive cycles, increase parenting skills, education, and job skills, thus enhancing self-sufficiency and greater success for teen parents and their children for generations to come. Many integrated factors, including environment, socioeconomic status, education, family dynamics, cultural views, among others, need to be considered when designing appropriate programs and interventions that address the many influences that affect behavior patterns among teen parents. A high percentage of teen parents are dependent on welfare, do not complete their high school diploma or a GED, do not pursue a college education, do not become financially self-sufficient, have poor life skills, and struggle with deficient parenting skills. This is an enormous expense to local and state and federal government. As of 2015, $9.4 billion was spent related to adolescent parents were expended in medical care, high-risk prenatal care, child welfare, and incarceration, among others. Funding to improve outcomes for teen parents and their children is essential from an individual, social, and financial perspective. However, providing teen parents with the tools to complete their education, obtain gainful employment, take good care of their child, and become socially responsible members of society is a much more cost-effective in the long term than providing them government assistance for most of their lives. Teen Parents United offers programs and services that are designed to meet the unique needs of teen parents and their children, to break destructive cycles and open doors for growth and opportunities to achieve these successful outcomes. Right here in our local community, the impact is far-reaching.
as they are supportive programs aimed to build independence, life, and parenting skills among teen parents, resulting in stability, self-sufficiency, and transforming unhealthy patterns. Young Parents United looks forward to working with the community to provide direction and support positive change for adolescent parents. Some of the partner organizations we're working with and collaborating with already is Hometown Health, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Food and Nutrition Programs, Schenectady High School, SUNY at City Center, WIC program. The YMCA has offered a space for programs on their premises. Potential collaboration and arrangements in progress with Schenectady Healthy Families and a few others. I encourage you to visit the website and for program information and more details on how to get involved. It's youngparentsunited.org. I'm inviting you for June 30th is a ribbon cutting event. It's going to be held at the McChesney Room at the Schenectady County Library from noon to 4 p.m. The actual ribbon cutting time is to be determined. We haven't ironed that out, the exact time yet, but that'll be that day. I have the director, Jeannie Egan, here. She's the co-founder and executive director, and if anybody has any questions after, we'll stay after and be happy to answer any questions. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Sounds exciting.
Do you want
Thank
that
you.
to be part of the record? Do you want that your speech to be part of the record?
Sure.
Perfect. Then make sure you stay excited. Make sure you stay after.
Here's an invitation. I've got some more information I'm going to hand out real quick.
Thank you.
The one thing I got, but I'll get them next time.
Barb.
Huh?
Good stuff. Thank you. Yeah.
Just as a reminder.
Thank you very much.
You deserve it. You don't know the time yet that they're going to come?
Need the exact time. I'll have to let you know exactly the time.
Yeah.
Give me a, can we take this? You want to just text me, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Eric.
Jack Dodson.
Okay, so you might want to keep the ticket for someone else.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Good evening, Jack Dodson, 1311 Cipriana Terrace. Resolution 191-18, Whispering Pines, approval of the final environmental impact statements. Is the board going to be able to give us an indication tonight when you might be voting on the project once this is approved?
Mr. Dodson, I believe this is just accepting that the report is complete. This is not even approving the findings. So from what I understand, there's a 10 to 30 day window to accept the findings, if I'm not mistaken. So that would have to happen, and then whatever the appropriate timelines after that.
So I guess my question is, are we voting in July on this, or do we not know that?
I don't know that we know specifically. I mean, it could be July or August, September.
Okay. Resolutions tonight, 185-18, 186-18, 187-18, 188-18, 189-18, and 191-18. All involve zoning, changes of zoning, or special use permits. On the agenda tonight is Whispering Pines, zone change from agriculture to this new senior living district. Peter Rhodes back on the agenda again here, going single family R1 to multifamily R3. And I've had an opportunity to talk at the Planning Commission meeting regarding the special use permit, general adaptive reuse of the religious and educational buildings. All these pertain to zoning, and because they all pertain to zoning, they all come back to our comprehensive plan. And once again, urging the town to update the comprehensive plan. And you're really urging the town to consider looking at a moratorium on apartment building in the town of Rotterdam, only just to provide maybe a better idea from the town of what the impacts on all this construction are. You know, Melvin talked a little bit tonight about, it's a softer market. At some point in time, as a board, the board has to recognize that we may reach a point of saturation in the market. Is that going to be something where we're going to be reactive to it, or is it going to be something that we're going to be proactive about? Obviously, beginning to look at an update to the comprehensive plan would address that issue. At the same time, we've talked a little bit about the impact of this on our infrastructure. We've all seen in the last month what the impact is in the town when we have water main breaks, not specifically just on development, but the impact on towns and businesses in the towns, the impact on our school. Similar plan. It's master planning, it's evaluating our infrastructure. It doesn't necessarily just have to be water. Obviously, water is the hot topic right now. To have a better understanding is what infrastructure needs the most assistance, what are the priorities? Once they're prioritized, it's funding. Let's see, Assemblyman Santa Barbara's been on the news. He's talked about water mains that are 20 to 30 years old that are old. They're not that. They're more like the 50 to 60 years old. And we need to plan to start addressing how we're going to improve that infrastructure. So it is affordable long-term to our kids. Lastly, still looking, I definitely would like to see the sidewalk done again between Helderberg Avenue, Curry Road to the Four Corners. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tom Morgan?
Good evening. Thomas Morgan, 1014 Day Road. I live in Highbridge Manor, and I'm here to talk about the proposed zoning change at 759 Peter Road. Now, I realize that today's meeting regarding this proposal is just a matter of procedure to send it to commission planning or not, but I wanted to make some points that you may not be aware of. I was involved previously when they tried to push this through a few years ago. First of all, with regard to the sewer facilities, the application mentions that the project will hook up to an existing sewer line. And why that sewer line indeed exists, a representative of Time Warner, now Spectrum, spoke at a past meeting, I believe it was a planning meeting, explaining that the line was not engineered for public use and that it belongs to them. And it was made clear that this project could not use that line. I'd have to go back and get notes there's probably minutes that have the information. Secondly, in 2011, the New York State Department of Transportation last performed a traffic count on Highbridge Road during the week from Monday morning to Friday noon. The average daily count in both directions was 9,252 cars. Keep in mind that Highbridge Manor residents have 5 primary points of egress from the community. All of these points lie on Highbridge Road. Did you ever hear of anybody sitting for 5 minutes waiting to just go across the road? It's true. In its current layout, there is no way to improve or redirect traffic. And we did look into having a traffic light put at Peter Road, but we can't, the county won't do it because there's one at the top of the bridge. And a little history. In August of 2014, Peter Road LLC submitted nearly the exact same zoning change procedure for 32 apartments at this location. Later that month, the Planning Commission submitted a negative recommendation for a variety of reasons. In March of 2015, they submitted a similar proposal, except this time for 24 apartments. The town board tabled that request due to the private discussions where members of the town board requested that it be reduced to 18 units. The very next month, Peter Road LLC returned with a 16-unit proposal. Again, it was given a negative recommendation, and the outstanding reason for that was that the adopted comprehensive plan clearly recommends no change. The plan offers clear direction for the neighborhood, yet is not mentioned anywhere in their application. In fact, since the Rotterdam Master Plan of 1955, the recommendation was no change in the Highbridge neighborhood, yet in the 63 years since that plan, there have been zoning changes which added a gas station, convenience store, and several apartment buildings totaling 66 units which exist to this day and contribute to traffic and what have you. The proposed zoning classification, regardless of how many units are requested, is inconsistent with the surrounding properties and the character of the community. Excuse me. It is inconsistent with the adopted 2001 comprehensive plan and the recommendation of Rotterdam Planning Commission. I have found no evidence of any basis supporting a zoning change as per the comprehensive plan. Therefore, this zoning change should be considered spot zoning. The leading case in New York on the issue of spot zoning, which was Rogers versus Terrytown, 1950, established that spot zoning was defined as the process of singling out a single parcel of land for a use of classification totally different than that of the surrounding area for the benefit of the owner of such property and to the detriment of other owners. Spot zoning is the very antithesis of planned zoning. The change of zone application has one very important note that bothers me, in that it's relevant to this discussion. Its instructions are that, and this is online, if a proposed zoning is not in conformance with the Rotterdam Comprehensive Plan, it will be necessary to apply for a comprehensive plan amendment. This is important because it establishes the important tie between zoning and the comprehensive plan. On the other hand, it also institutionalizes a plan change as an application from an individual rather than a community effort to plan the greater good. The town has created an administrative process for making changes to the plan by creating an application form for making such an amendment. In the case of the Peter Road parcel zoning proposal, I have found no evidence in the existing comprehensive plan that supports such a zoning change. And in this case, the Peter Road proposal is a single parcel designed to benefit the owner and is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Is that, okay. All right, let's move into the agenda. Yeah, I think, yeah, you should, so we can go down. Okay, this is, I think it's good. I've got it. I think, yeah.
Comprehensive plan.
Mr. Supervisor, I would like to make a motion. This motion will be motion number 17.18 to add resolution numbers 206 and 207 of 2018 to tonight's agenda.
Okay, so let's, if you don't mind reading 206. You want me to do that, to add it?
The motion first. I'm going to read the motion, okay?
Yep.
The motion reads, appropriate parkland fees to pay Clifford H. Quay and Son, Inc. for a new concrete slab at Memorial Park, Resolution 206. Enter an agreement with Gervin Filazzo, PC, for legal services related to an employment matter.
Resolution 207. Okay. That's enough, actually. Yeah, good there. Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Christou to add these two resolutions, 206 and 207. You want to just take a minute and look through them yourselves before we move forward?
For the record, this is not some sort of a surprise motion. It was discussed in the agenda meeting. We just kind of ran out of time and we didn't want to hold up the public.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. So we have a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller Herrera to add resolutions 206-18 and 207-18 to the agenda. Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
To add to the agenda, yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Miller Herrera? Yes. Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
All five yes.
Okay, so motion 17-18, excuse me, passes to add, or is added. We're adding these two resolutions, 206 and 207-18 to the agenda.
So, Mr. Supervisor, do they now get read in order at the end, or we can do them now?
Yeah, we'll read them in order at the end.
Okay.
Is that okay, Dan?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So let's go into resolution 179-18.
Adopt the meeting minutes from the May 9th, 2018, May 11th, 2018, and May 23rd, 2018 Town Board minutes.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 179-18 passes. Resolution 180-18.
Appoint Robert W. Zink Jr. of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of Water Treatment Plant Operator Trainee, full-time probationary with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $46,202.35, effective June 25th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, Mr.
Is there a
Supervisor.
motion by Mr. Christou? Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question?
Mr. Supervisor, I just want to note that I was one of the people that interviewed Mr. Zink for the position. He has shown great enthusiasm for this new position. He has spent money out of his own pocket to receive, what is that certification, Mr. Bonthron, that Mr. Zink has received?
It's the training course for the EV water operator license.
So I feel very confident in making this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And what's important here is that we have I'm just going to say it. Ian is going to, has said he's going to retire next year. We kind of wish he would retire because we like him. He does a great job. He and Justin Peterson are the two gentlemen who run our water plant. And a trainee needs at least a year in the position in order to be able to take over, if you will, as a water operator under licensed Department of Health in the state of New York. So we're not making a move just to make a move. What we're doing is building our bench, and we are trying to do that every time that we move forward here. And we talk about our water between Ian, Justin, and Matt Lupi, our highway department. We've got a lot to do, and we did receive a $5 million award. I know I've mentioned this multiple times, but I think it's important. It is a focus for us. We received a $5 million award, a $3 million grant with a $2 million low-interest loan from the state. We are working with engineers to do a number of, it's not just repairs, but replacements of valves and a lot of other projects that I think when we have them complete, I'll keep mentioning them. But there's a lot of projects that are in the works and others that are coming in the next year to 3-4 years minimum. So with that, we need additional staff. And it's not additional staff, again, just to add to staff. It's to have someone there ready to take over to help run our water plant. So we'll thank you again, Ian, when you really do retire, which, you know, we'll see if that really happens. But I say that jokingly, but thank you very, very much.
Take a picture?
Yeah, you can later. Actually, you could. We'll try to host another public meeting at the water plant next year. Once that new well is in and in operation, we'll have another public meeting out there on a Saturday, and this way people who are interested can come and see the operation for themselves. Okay. So 180-18, motion by Mr. Christou, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 180-18 passes. Robert, I know you're in the audience. Would you stand up and be recognized? Robert's been working in the highway department. How long now have you been there?
Just about 2 years.
Just about 2 years. Done a great job there, and we're happy to have you moving over to the water department. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your interest.
Ian, you gotta let him play with that little thing that has the app on the phone that you can look at the water towers and, you let him,
We'll try his first time.
if he's good, right? You let him? All right, cool.
All the toys, this guy. Okay, 180-118.
Reclassify and appoint Deborah Dalton of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of Senior Tax Clerk, full-time probationary with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $43,813.64.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Ms. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 181-18 passes. Debbie, would you stand up, please?
Blue carpet.
Thanks for everything that you do. You've done a great job. Started out in the assessor's office, if I remember correctly, and for whatever reason wanted to move upstairs to the receiver of taxes office. But thank you very much for your time here. Appreciate all that you do. Thank you. Okay, Resolution 182-18.
Amend Resolution Number 153 of 2018 to reflect the proper job titles by changing all references to seasonal labor and Department of Public Works intern to park attendant part-time.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question?
Mr. Supervisor, I believe this is a housekeeping situation. They were hired under a title that actually did not exist, and these young folks have not been paid yet, so we're looking to clean this up in order for them.
Civil service. Okay.
Civil service.
All right, well, we're doing what we have to do. So, okay. Anyone else on the question? All right, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 182-18 passes. Resolution 183-18.
Amend Resolution Number 170 of 2018 to remove individuals and appoint and reappoint individuals to various seasonal summer positions in the Parks and Recreation Summer Program.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes, it's like watching the tennis match, isn't it sometimes? Yeah, I know, that's why you're laughing. Okay, 184-18.
Amend Resolution Number 136 of 2018 to remove individuals and appoint and reappoint individuals to various seasonal summer positions at the Town of Rotterdam Highway Department at an hourly rate of $10.50.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Signor, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, call the roll, please.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 184-18 passes. Resolution 185-18.
Refer to Planning Commission for report and recommendation thereon a proposed local law of the year 2018 for the following purpose: to allow for a change of zone request from Peter Road LLC for a property located at 759 Peter Road, Rotterdam, New York 12303, and is known as tax map number 59.20-1-1. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from single-family residential R1 to multifamily residential R3 on a plus or minus 2.41 acre parcel for the construction of a 4-8 unit apartments. Sorry.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Signor, is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to say a couple of things.
Sure.
In regard to Jack Dodson, when he previously spoke, earlier, Steve and I discussed some of the items on this agenda that do reinforce the fact that we need to look at our comp plan and do some work on it. You know, constantly the zoning changes, things like this, and I did some research since I saw this was on the agenda. I went to the property, actually went there again today, pulled out twice during higher traffic. I think it was around 4:30. Went and talked to Peter in building department because I knew this was applied for previously. What I didn't know and didn't find out definitively, and I still don't know based on the information that Tom Morgan gave us, that in 2014, this project, based on the information he gave us and not confirmed, went in front of the planning board and wasn't passed, and then it went again in May 5th, 2015, and was denied again. And you know, with that being said, I don't think that I can make a a vote on this,
Okay. Let
this
me-
resolution right now. I think I'd like to confirm and see what has happened in the past and see if this is something.
Mr. Supervisor, is this resolution simply sends this to the planning commission for review?
It does. So someone comes and makes an application, we refer to the planning commission for their thoughts, if you will, and actions. So that's all we're doing here. This is not changing the zoning. It's not accepting the project. It's not saying the project's going to happen.
Yeah, and I understand
You
that.
understand that? And that's fine. Whatever your position is, that's fine. I just, I think more knowledge is important, and you, you've approached that and made your case. So that,
Well, I don't know that I can't vote. I can just say it's.
You can abstain, Joe.
I can abstain. Right.
That's if you feel that strongly about it.
Well, not that I feel that
No,
strongly. It's just
we're
that how many? It seems like it went to the planning commission twice already.
I don't disagree, but the other thing is this: is that, and don't misinterpret when I say this in any way, shape, or form. But if you own a piece of property, you're looking to do something with that property, the boards change. In the past, for 2 years, they had a 2-2 board. And unfortunately, and I mean this and with all due respect to those 4 people that were on the board, is that not enough happened. And what I'm getting at, I'm not talking about zone change, I'm talking about other things like infrastructure, making sure that we had staff for different departments. I mean, just things that you need to run the community, to run our town.
Right.
So with that, I mean, I think that having said that, it doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't right.
And I'm not saying it's a
You're
bad
not saying-
project.
right.
I actually
That's
went to
fine.
the property. I think it would be an improvement to the property. It's not a lot of units. Well, it's more than I'd like to see.
But that's where the planning process also
Right.
takes into.
Right, I would, like,
And the only
for me
thing-
personally, I'm just thinking I'd like to look at the old case
That's fine.
file before.
That's fine.
And
That's
I know
fine.
it's
And
kind
the
of
only thing,
irrelevant.
Mr. Supervisor, the only thing I would add to that is that I think one of the responsibilities of this board, more than defending or the opposite of defending a project, is the process itself. So I'm reading this thing, and I have some concerns about the magnitude and the traffic, and I hear the concerns, and I believe that as I also, on the flip side of that, the developer has a right, knowing that the process is going to be hard for him to enter that process. So, if this does nothing more than send it to the first step of the process, I can support the motion. This is in no way a support of the project that as is or anything of that matter. It's about defending the process.
And I guess with that being said, I could probably send it to the process, but like I said, it just seems,
Sorry, just don't,
going there, but anyways.
yeah,
Okay.
don't sweat it. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Signor and a second by Mr. Christou regarding 185-18. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
To refer to the planning commission, yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yeah, I'm not going to vote on this, I'm going to abstain.
Abstain. Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Before I vote, I'm just going to say I'm not sure how I feel about this project at this point. I did look at it pretty closely when it came up last time, walked the property, spoke with neighbors, all those things. I think that's a lot of units on 2 acres, but for it to go to planning, I will say yes.
Did you say yes?
Yes.
She said yes.
Thank you. Mr. Signor?
I also want to adopt the logic that Mr. Christo is, and that's just getting into the planning board and giving each person their due diligence or their right to be heard. Now, whether it's voted on later on and approved, what it does is it just means that we're just allowing the people to present their case, and then we go from there. So I vote yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
4 yes, 1 abstain.
Thank you. 185-18 passes. 186-18.
Declare the town board as lead agency and authorize the town planner to prepare, file, publish, and distribute all documents necessary to comply with NYCRR Part 617 and State Environmental Quality Review relative to the proposed local law referenced in Resolution 187.18.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Signor. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. I think everyone wants to see if who's going to second tonight for some reason. That's good. So we have a motion by Mr. Signor, a second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 186-18 passes. Resolution 187-18.
Call for public hearing to be held on Wednesday, July 11th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirvin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, for the following purpose: to amend Chapter 270 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam to provide for special use permits allowing adaptive use of religious and educational buildings.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
187.
Yes. No, I just.
Miss, did you say yes? Did you say yes?
Just rushing through it. No, I did not. say
Okay,
yes.
okay, I'm sorry.
He said yes to me.
Oh, okay.
I love it.
Again, I would just like to say, this is just another one of those examples that just reinforces the fact that we really need to look at our comp plan.
Okay.
What's your vote, Joe?
He's thinking.
Yes, for the public hearing.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 187-18 passes. Resolution 188-18.
I'm sorry, I forgot to write down on that, who made the motion on this.
Oh, Mr. Christou.
Thank you.
Seconded by Ms. Miller Herrera.
Thank you.
Yep.
Call for the public hearing to be held on Wednesday, July 11th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirvin Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, for the following purpose: request by AMZ Construction Services as contract vendee to discuss the allowance to convert the existing Lighthouse Evangelical Free Church into construction company offices on a plus or minus 0.688 acre parcel located in the Aquifer Overlay District on tax map number 220.5-4-24.21, 1234 Main Street in Rotterdam Junction, New York, 12150.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Miller Herrera. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question?
What do you want to troublemaker?
No? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 180-18 passes. Resolution 189-18.
Resolution to approve a request by Monolith Solar Associates to expand the previously approved 200 kW solar farm and construct up to a 600 kW facility on a plus or minus 6.13 acre parcel located in the Aquifer Overlay District on tax map number 12.-2-4.1 Main Street in Rotterdam Junction, New York, 12150. Public hearing was called for at the town board meeting of April 11th, 2018. Public hearing was held at the town board meeting of April 28th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 189-18 passes. Resolution 190-18.
Authorize the supervisor to execute any and all documents to accept the terminus of Christine Lane, West Lucille Lane, and Missoula Parkway, along with all related utility easements and stormwater management within said street as depicted in the subdivision as built plans known as Lands NF of John and Noreen Adamack, 7-lot subdivision as prepared by John J. Post Jr., PLS of Ingalls and Associates, dated October 21st, 2013, and last updated April 24th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Signor, is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 190-18 passes. Resolution 191-18.
The town board hereby accepts the Village of Whispering Pines Senior Living District final EIS as complete and shall file a copy of the final EIS and notice of completion at the office of the town clerk. All involved agencies, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and the Environmental Notice Bulletin in accordance with 6 NYCRR 6.17.12.
Okay, it's 617.12,
Is that what I said?
right? I think you put an extra point in there, I just wanted to clarify, that's all. That's
I thought it
okay.
said 6.7.
That's all right. You know, sometimes depending on how I look at it, there's 3 or 4 different dots in there. Too close with this lighting.
Here are my glasses.
That's all right, isn't it? I just pulled back a little bit. Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Miller Herrera, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question?
Mr. Supervisor, just to be clear, this motion basically just says that we acknowledge that the FEIS is complete. It does not discuss the findings or acceptance of the findings or anything else like that.
Well, it discusses, what it does is it discusses the comments, both written and verbal that were made. It goes through and addresses those concerns relative to the information that our town designated engineer, in this case Clough Harbor, has reviewed along with, you know, through the process here. It was prepared by their engineer and also reviewed by our TDE to be complete.
Which basically, this is the next step in the process.
It's next up in the
There's
process.
no way for or against the project.
Correct. What it does, though, I mean, when you say for or against, it has to do with, you refer to the town board voting.
Right.
That's obviously hasn't happened yet. But
Right.
the issues of you asked me earlier, you know, can the public still comment on it? Of course they can. But those comments can be brought forth to the board, brought forth publicly, you know, through our website and email. But they don't have necessarily an impact to this document. Okay? All right. Yeah. Anyone else on 191-18? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
To accept that we received the revised and completed FEIS, yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 191-18 passes. Resolution 194-18.
Okay, can I just for the record say that motion number 16.18 was the tabling of 192.18 and 193.18?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
194.18 is authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with Barton & LaJudas, P.C., located at 10 Airline Drive, Suite 200, Albany, New York, 12205, to provide grant writing services in connection with the New York State DEC Water Quality Improvement Project program for a salt sand storage building.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Signor. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 194-18 passes. Resolution 195-18.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with Repeat Business Systems located at 4 Fritz Boulevard, Albany, New York, 12205, for a 3-year SmartNet support renewal in an amount not to exceed $361.46.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 195-18 passes. So now we have, before we get to those last couple of resolutions, we've got the consent for 196-18 through 205-18. Yeah. And anyone have anything on any of those resolutions they'd like to mention? I mean, we'll have a motion here in a minute, but just to have it, give me a heads up.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make the motion to accept the consent items of the agenda.
Okay.
Items number 19618, 19718, 19818, 19918, 20018, 20118, 20218, 20318, 20418, and 20518.
So that will be motion number
Motion
18,
by,
Steve?
motion by Mr. Christou. Not for,
I don't need one for that?
no, not for consent.
Okay.
No, this just doesn't move the consent agenda, yep.
Thank you.
So we have a motion by Mr. Christou, a second. Anyone offer a second?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Signor? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Christou, a second by Mr. Signor to vote on 196 through 20518 as a block. Ms. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
For the consent,
For the
Mr.
consent.
Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
All yes.
Okay, resolutions 196 through 20518 pass. Okay, well, let's get to 20618.
You want me to read the entire one?
Section 1 from each one,
The
please.
town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the appropriation of parkland fees in an amount not to exceed $7,989 and hereby modifies the general fund budget by increasing estimated revenues A510 and the revenue account entitled Parkland Fees A2001.200100 by $7,989 and increasing appropriations A960 in the subsidiary account entitled Parks Improvement A7110.4153 by $7,989 to pay Clifford H. Quay & Son, Inc. for the new concrete slab at Memorial Park.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question?
Mr. Supervisor, this was put on last, and I know we discussed it briefly, so this
Concrete
was
slab under the pavilion.
Right here.
right at Memorial Park. This is the final aspect of that project.
Of that project outside of, some other signage, or as far as the Memorial Park itself, there's other things we'll do there, but the pavilion, we want to do something different there with some lighting and maybe run some electrical there, but that's later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were we in the middle of the vote when I started that?
No, we weren't really.
No.
We were still under the discussion.
Discussion.
Anyone else on Resolution 206? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 20618 passes. Resolution 20718.
The town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Gervin and Filazzo, PC, 20 Corporate Woods Boulevard, Albany, New York, 12211 for legal services related to an employment matter in an amount not to exceed $20,000.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Guidarelli. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, Resolution 2017-18 passes. Okay. Does anyone have any items under committee reports or even miscellaneous that they'd like to mention at this time? I've got just a few things to...
Something on the miscellaneous, if I could.
Sure.
I want to thank Teresa Duncan and Dana Osta, who always put together our binders for the evening. This time, we actually have these beautiful tabs that they've taken, actually a lot of work, I can see. And not only that, but they've separated them out, not only by the resolutions, but by the consent resolutions. So that's a lot of work. And I noticed, I don't know if you know before, like we'd be shuffling through, trying to get them and earmarking them. So I want to thank them because obviously this is a tremendous effort on their part to put them together for us, in addition to the tremendous work they put together every time they put them together for us. So I just wanted them to be acknowledged for the hard work of putting these binders for our board meetings.
And you better acknowledge
Thank you.
Councilman Guidarelli who made the suggestion.
And Councilman Guidarelli, who made the suggestion. I think I'd be more, I would probably, if Joe was actually there putting them together, I'd be more impressed, but okay, I'll give him a little credit there.
And you're not taking the tabs home because we're going to reuse them because I'm cheap. So
Absolutely.
it's right now, so don't take them. Not that cheap, but don't take them home. Anyone else on their committee reports or miscellaneous?
I'd like to say something. In regard to, we've talked about the comp plan a couple times because of tonight's agenda. And, you know, even my being indecisive on the one vote, I just, have trouble making, I should say, I don't like to make uninformed decisions. And not that I was uninformed, I think there was more information out there that I could have had, but all this really does, reinforce how badly we need to update our comp plan. And, I think us as a board, we should put something in motion as soon as possible, say, hey, do we start composing a team? Do we grab two people off the planning board, the zoning board? Do we get some input from the residents? Do we get some builder developers in on this? I just really feel the urgency that we need to make a move towards updating our comp plan. And as far as that project, I hope it comes across as negative on the project, because I actually did go out to that project, and it seems to me it would be an improvement to that location. I want to say, I think the sewer hooks to Schenectady, not to Rotterdam, the water's close, a lot of things are there, and I'm not speaking in favor, I'm just saying, it just seems like we really need to get on to this comp plan.
I think, Councilman Guidarelli, I don't think anybody disagrees with you. As a matter of fact, if you recall, we were on a tight schedule, but the supervisor did touch on the fact that perhaps we engage in some, in budgeting some money next year to do exactly that. So I think that's just, again, it shows that this board is developing a very good communication, even if we don't agree on all the issues at one time, that nobody's here to pontificate or demonize, but just to do what's best for this town. So I think we're all in agreement with you.
We just need to make something happen.
Yeah, we will. Through the budget
And I know,
process.
we already agree.
We will. And obviously, it's not banter. These discussions that we have, whether it's one-on-one privately or during the public meetings, when I get the process started with the budget, which is going to start sooner than later, so that you're all aware. I add those numbers in, and then we start to see what happens to the tax rates. We start to see what happens, for what it is that we need to do for the future of the town, and so from there we have to, maybe look at some other areas in the budget where we deem as not a priority. Our priorities is our infrastructure. I believe that our priority is to adjust the comp plan. But more importantly, the comp plan itself as a document is, has had updates to it. Some of the language that's contained in that document have to do with what was in existence at the time as far as infrastructure. Well, and when I say infrastructure, even something as laborious, which it was, as the roundabout at Hamburg and Curry. So, that wasn't considered at that, when they did this. So, all those things, and we will move forward on that. You have my commitment. I'm going to put additional money into the budget under planning for the prospect of hiring an engineering firm to assist us, because if we want to do it in a shorter period of time rather than a longer period of time, which is what I hear from everybody on the board, which is something that I don't want to use the word parroted, but talked about for a long time, then we're going to do it. We'll move ahead, and you'll see that in the 19 budget.
Mr. Supervisor, one more thing that I want to address. Mr. Dodson, to your point about sidewalks, I just want to let you know I've had 4 separate conversations on various levels, from engineers on laying out sidewalks to sources of some funding. So that is also an item that I think is on the front burner, and we hear you, and I hope we'll be able to share some information once I have shareable information on that. But I've had 4 lengthy conversations at various levels and with various pieces that would take to put this puzzle together. So we hear you loud and clear, and we're working on that.
And I'm just checking my calendar here. So a couple things, and they're kind of, I'm going to be a little bit all over the board here. I don't have any real structure to all these things tonight. So the Rotterdam Business Association assisted us in the construction of the pavilion itself and giving us funding for it, about half the money for the pavilion itself. And they are going to be at Memorial Park on this coming Tuesday night from 5:30 to 7:30. And I forget how much it is for dinner. Is it 25? So if you want to come, you want to have dinner, you want to, hopefully it doesn't rain, you want to
They're
stay there
actually
with us
hosting their monthly dinner at
the park. So it's $25 if you'd like to come and join us there. I'm paying my own way. So, you know, that's what we do.
So am I.
And, huh?
So am I.
So are you? I thought I was paying your way.
No, I can't be bought, Mr.
I'd like to. So we'll be there for ribbon cutting and for that. So that's at 5:30 to 7:30 is the scheduled time, Tuesday, June 26th at Memorial Park and under the pavilion. We had a meeting not we as a board, but the town on June 7th at the Rotterdam Junction Fire Department, and it was about the Empire State Trail and the connections to be made from Rotterdam Junction through Pattersonville. And it was a great meeting. We had great attendance at the meeting. There were great questions, great comments. The state did a fabulous job in presenting the information, and more importantly for us as a town, there will be millions of dollars hopefully spent there to improve the trail, but more importantly to put tunnels underneath the rail line so that pedestrians and those on their bicycles can safely go through the bike trail. And very importantly for those of us who have been around, when I say pay attention, it's not to say that we don't pay attention, but when you go around door to door and you're talking to residents from one end of the town to the other, there are projects that, people have said, why doesn't the town do something about this? And why doesn't the town do something about that? We've talked about it for 30 years, 40 years. What's happening? So it was, for me, it was like the heavens opened up. Don't quote me on that. But when the state came up with a slide that talked about helping us with the drainage problem on Lock Street. And Larry knows about, we've all been there, our state officials have been there, our elected state officials have been there. So what our hope is that as the state hopefully gets approval for the bike trail improvements, we hopefully will agree to a betterment agreement with all the construction they're going to do there anyway. They're going to be staging, they're going to be there already to take care of this drainage problem out for Lock Street and the lower levels there, if you will, in Rotterdam Junction. Now, it won't necessarily stop, a huge flood that happens. These storm events that occur when they say every 500 years or every 1,000 years. I don't know if they knew what happened from, but hey, who am I to say? But to even take care of large storm events that we have, or large rain events, right now the water pools and we have a pump system there. Literally, the water just pumps to the canal and it just keeps meandering around. It's like a circle, in essence. So this hopefully will provide a long-term solution. The project itself is out into 2019, 2020, 2021, but hopefully we can get all that accomplished there. And I want to thank the state and the governor for his attention. That this is one of his initiatives, and I just want to say, on behalf of the town, we're very appreciative of the state's efforts. I'm just going through here to see what else I got this. So staying with the junction for the moment, we had put out basically an interest letter through, and I forget what department it was, but anyway, we are hopefully going to put an application in for pedestrian and bicycle access improvements because of the projects that the state is committing to in Rotterdam Junction, in Pattersonville. So for a large section of Rotterdam Junction itself, so again, pedestrian and bicycle access improvements along 5S and Main Street, in the junction. So we're working on that. We hope to have a application in this year, in this year's funding for that, because it ties into all the other work that they're doing out there. It makes sense for us to approach it at this time. And again, because there are some funds available through the federal government and state government, so we're going to hopefully get some funds there to assist us in that, in the completion of those sidewalks and for access, by bicyclists, safe passage on the roads. And from our perspective, we're hoping for, we are budgeting for speed monitoring devices from the perspective of, slow down, like we have around town. We're hopefully going to buy more of those as well into this new budget, and also crosswalks and other lighting that will assist in keeping it safe. But the most important thing that I think we can do in any of these areas is lower the speed limit. The speed limit there is just, it meanders all over the place. It goes from 40, 45 to 55, then back down to 45, and even there it's too fast. That's way too fast down a main street like that where the homes are very close to the road besides. So we need to lower the speed limit in a lot of different areas like this in the town, and as we go forward we'll be approaching that. As far as the water breaks that have occurred, know that when we have a main break like we did on Curry Road again, that area had already been repaired a couple of times this year. We did have the weather, I think, is a huge contributor, where obviously the temperature changes rapidly within a day or 2 or 3 days, and all that work that you do, and if you've done any construction at all, even if you're just pouring a small slab to put your garbage cans on, if you do it at the wrong time, that slab's going to move. So you can't be putting yourself in a position where, for us, we make the repair quickly, and we have the staff now to do that. That's the other piece I want everyone to know. The bigger piece of this, though, is that when you have a main break like the one on Curry Road and Altamont Avenue, because when there's changes in pressure, and so on, and I'm not the engineer, the engineers tell me, it's real simple, right? Even if you had a change in pressure in your home, what would happen to your pipes in your house? They would find the weak spots, and that's what happens. It finds the weak spots, and that's why we have these other breaks in some of the side streets. When we had the break on Hollywood Avenue, the press was reporting that it was 2,100 homes. I mean, the notice said 21 homes. But more importantly, what I want to get out to everyone here is know that we take all these things very seriously. This is not a situation where we're like, oh geez, we had another water break, let's take our time. Those repairs are made that day, that night, within 2 days. As you can see, thank God, of late, we have a boil water advisory. When our water tests go through the lab, we're passing all the water tests. So in other words, we're on site, our guys and ladies are doing the work that they need to do to get that water back on and to everyone's home. But more importantly, we haven't failed any water tests, and that's important. It's not saying don't take the boil water advisory seriously, because you have to. I do. Everybody should. But at the same time, know that we're at it and we're on top of it. And in the junction, what happened there, they are on a separate system than the rest of us. So for those of you that go out to the junction, when you pass the Knotty Pine, right behind the Knotty Pine is where our wells are. And they are on a separate system, and it is an older system, particularly the main transmission lines. So we are working over this year into next year. We'll be doing some other work around a grant process, hopefully, and working on repairing those lines. But they're a small district. Any change that you make there from the perspective of trying to make any major improvements cost a lot of money, and when you look at what we pay, when I say Water 5, so the majority of us that are here, of those of you that I know, we're all in Water 5, we pay the $75 rent and then, dozens of dollars for the tax. It's not hundreds or thousands of dollars on the tax side. And that's a testament not only to the system that we have, but God blessed us with this phenomenal aquifer and a way for us to get great water to our homes. And so when you look at what we're paying, We don't want to raise anything, but we're looking at what we have to do to ensure that as we move forward, we're putting in place necessary projects that will make improvements to the system into the future. But the junction needs direct attention, and we're looking also to some neighboring municipalities there to see what else we might be able to do to expand that a little bit, which would help bring down some of that cost for everyone that is currently in that system. So there's a lot to do, and we're on it. I appreciate your patience, and in particular, please heed the boil water advisories when they happen. But if you have any questions at all, then when they come up, just call. You can call our office here at Town Hall. But more importantly, if you haven't signed up for the reverse 911 and through the county, that's how we alert folks through that system as well. So if you go to the Schenectady County's website, they have a service there that you can sign up for that will, basically dial you, robo-dial you, what's going on if there's an event in town that occurs like the water breaks. So thanks for listening to me.
One more thing, if I could?
Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to thank our superintendent of highways, Larry Lamora. He was very kind and gracious last Wednesday to let me spend an entire day with him and his crew and his support staff. I got a chance to actually brought back fond memories from 34 years ago when I spent my last summer working for the highway department. I was going to college. And they've got a really sharp system there. Things that still need, a lot of repairs that need to be done and equipment upgrades and stuff, but I wanted to thank him personally, and I also want to thank his staff. They're hardworking people. I got to see some of the, don't get excited, Mrs. Russ, some really neat stuff that they've got, some really cool equipment, and some of the state-of-the-art computer monitoring that they have for some of the features in the town. So I saw him here tonight, and I wanted to thank him again for all his hospitality and his kindness. And if ever you need him to find him during lunch, he's probably at the Wagon Wheel Barbecue. Is that right?
Wagon train.
Wagon Train, thank you.
Get it
Wagon,
straight, Steve.
Wagon, well, I don't go there that often, so Wagon Train Barbecue. So that's if you need to find him in an emergency.
Larry, is he trying to get a personally monogrammed vest out of your department? Or free lunch, is that what he's trying to get?
No, but you were my inspiration to buy my own hard hat and safety vest, so next time there is a water main break, I'll have it with me, and then you won't yell at me and say the DOT guys are looking at you.
There you go.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adjourn.
Wow.
Feel the love now.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller Herrera to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thanks very much for coming this evening, appreciate your attendance here.